Failed to land a big policy pitch yesterday regarding one of the biggest changes in the history of our Defence Force. Defence Personnel Minister Matt Keogh indicated a raid on foreign citizens to boost our numbers would apply to nations beyond Five Eyes partners, which could include China, before Richard Marles stepped in with a mop. Joining us live now is our Wednesday morning panel, Labor MP Julian Hill, Liberal MP Keith Wallahan. Good morning to you both. Julian, to you first. Did Matt Keogh fluff his lines yesterday?
Well, no, the National Defence Strategy makes absolutely clear that the Defence Force needs to grow. The former government announced a commitment to grow the Defence Force by 18,500 personnel, although they didn't put any money in the budget. But this is a highly specialised and skilled workforce. And I'll just make 2 points. The old adage goes, when the labour market's strong, when the economy's strong, Defence struggles to recruit. And it's no surprise. The same thing's happening across much of the developed world. It's important then, when we look at the Defence Force under pressure going backwards, that we look at new options. Now, there's nothing new here. It's no change in policy. What the government's announced very clearly and sensibly is that from the 1st of July, eligible New Zealand permanent residents who've been living here for a year will be able to apply to join the ADF. And then from January next year, it will be people from Five Eyes partners, the US, the UK,
but not beyond
Canada.
that, because that's what Matt Keogh suggested.
No, exactly, absolutely.
So he was wrong.
Absolutely, but
so he got it wrong.
No, with respect, I do have respect for Sky during the day, and I saw your headline there. It is just misinformation. It is misinformation.
What's misinformation?
The facts now. To suggest this morning that there's any intention to recruit from China or other countries. It's been very
this is the problem. This is what Matt
yesterday.
Keogh was indicating yesterday, that it could go to countries beyond Five Eyes partners. Would that not bring in China?
Can we just treat this as serious national security?
But I would have thought that would be serious national security.
Peter Dutton walked out. You shouldn't be doing this. Peter Dutton walked out of the Parliament yesterday to spread misinformation. The Defence Minister was crystal clear in the Parliament, and we should be dealing in facts. This is the Australian Defence Force. We will be allowing eligible New Zealand permanent residents to apply from July, and the US, Canada, the UK from January. And there's nothing new in that. I mean, if you go on a submarine, if you go on a ship, as I've done many times, you see what's called lateral transfers, usually the Brits because they come here for the weather. This is extending and formalising that long-standing practice in the ADF, and we should not be spreading misinformation.
Keith, let's go to you now. As a former member of the ADF, thanks for your service, by the way. Has it been cleared up for you?
No, it hasn't been clear. And what we're asking about is better transparency and competence. Can I say at the outset, I wasn't born here. I came as a migrant. And like so many migrants, I look for a way to give back. And the best way I thought I could give back was to put on a uniform. And our war memorial has 103,000 Australians who died. So many of them were not born in this country. So let's put to bear that this is some anti-migrant question. It's not. We really treasure and respect migrants who want to serve, and so many do. What it is about is confusion and incompetence. We are short in the Defence Force by about 5,000 people. And this scheme, and there is merit in parts to it, is only talking about 350 people. And when I was in East Timor or Afghanistan, many people would have Canadian or British or American accents, because we've been doing a form of this for many years. So the idea is not new. What we're looking for is better detail and transparency, and that's not lacking. And like on so many portfolios, the relevant ministers are not across their brief. And that's really concerning more broadly for this government.
Can I just ask you while you're there, Keith, why aren't people joining the ADF? Is it money or is it something else?
There's a few different reasons. There's always a correlation between unemployment and Defence Force recruiting. That's always been the case. It is harder. There is cultural issues. We heard from the Royal Commission into veteran suicide that there is a perception and actual evidence of cultural problems, and the ADF has to work through those problems, and we'll wait to see what the final report says. And I think there should be bipartisan commitment to implementing all of the reasonable recommendations that come from that.
Yeah.
But then more broadly, we need to have confidence that the government has their back. And I think there's a few areas where it's clear that this government doesn't have their back, and their record is when they were last in government. Record cuts to defence spending, the most severe cuts to defence spending since World War II. That's their record when they were last in government, and that's the concern going forward after this term.
All right. To you both, thank you so much for your time as always. We're out of time. Couldn't get to NDIS, but we'll leave that to the top of the hour with somebody else. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Keith. We'll talk to you next week.